Hello, everyone. I'm Lauren Cristella. I'm the Chief Program Officer of the Committee of 70. Thanks so much for joining us for this installment of Studio C70, where we discuss important issues and learn more about the operations of our government here in Pennsylvania. Today, I have with me Commissioner Lisa Deeley, who's the Philadelphia City Commissioner and is chair of the Board of Elections and has been since 2017. Thanks so much for joining us, Commissioner Deeley.
Thank you so much for having me, Lauren.
I would love to start by learning a little bit more about why you chose to run for this office and what led you to this position.
No, it was a bunch of events that happened throughout my lifetime. So I've been involved in the operations of elections since I was a child. My mother was a committee person and her father before her. And my mom was a single parent. So wherever my mom went, I pretty much went with her. You know, my mom was a single parent back when I was the only kid in my grade that came from a single parent home. So it was kind of unique back then. So one of the places I found myself every 6 months was at the local barbershop where we voted. And it was an old fashioned barbershop. We used to have big square leather chairs that used to sit on a round dais, and I would sit and I would spin around all day. Apparently I was a sponge. I didn't realize it, but I took it all in and it really became part of who I am. You know, I had a great opportunity to work both in state government for a state representative and really hone my skills in constituent service. And then I took those skills into the city controller's office, where I ran the first of its kind community outreach office in the city controller's office. And then back to city council, where I really got a taste of the legislation. So, you know, when I looked at all those things, I realized that the catalyst to all of that is voting. And there was an opportunity for me to take a chance, and I took a chance, and the voters of Philadelphia endorsed that chance I took. And lucky for me, they did it twice. So here I am. Chairwoman of the Philadelphia Board of Elections. I will say it is not the job that I originally signed up for, but we're taking it day by day, and hopefully we continue to do the job that the citizens of Philadelphia look for and appreciate.
Can you tell us a little bit more about what the responsibilities of the office are and how they have changed since, say, 2020?
Well, yeah. So basically, you know, especially before Act 77, right? The job of the office was you were pretty much a party planner. You made sure that, you know, you were going to have servers, the bartender, the waitresses, the table set up. So literally we would roll the machines out, make sure we had the tables up, people working, people voted. Election day is over. We take the machines back. We count the votes. That's it. We start all over again for the next time. Well, you know, with the advent of Act 77 and mail-in voting, we saw a dramatic shift in our job. Then when you add on to that, all of the conspiracy and all of the just information, both dis and mis, that goes around about elections, it has changed the job dramatically. So now we have to be mail experts, GIS experts, postal experts, social media experts. You know, we need security experts. You know, I know things about security that I never thought I would ever need to know or want to know. I never imagined I would be as literate in social media and all that as I find myself, right? So the job has changed, you know, just in huge ways. But through that all, we are still responsible, by the way, for planning that party on election day, which in Philadelphia means we have to stand up polling places in 1,703 divisions. So on top of everything else that we have, we also still have to plan that in-person election day, which is in itself a huge undertaking.
Right. And I know in 2020, the mail-in votes were about 50%. Are you seeing a decrease with the kind of pandemic restrictions opening up?
We have seen a decrease. It seems to be like 30, 35%, you know, not the high number that we saw during COVID, but I think we'll begin to see where it'll level off. The midterm might prove to be a good example of that because it's a much more popular election. So, since 2020, this is probably the most popular election that we had, and the midterms are going to run right through Pennsylvania and specifically right through Philadelphia. And we're going to be, at the top, we're going to be the bullseye again. So it'll be interesting to see if that attention brings more people to mail-in voting or more people in person. Of course, we hope for, increased turnout. We love to see the turnout numbers that we saw in 2020. And I think the will to get there is there. And certainly if you're a voter in Philadelphia and you turn on the television or your computer, you have to know there's an election, right? There's being millions of dollars being spent. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. We haven't been doing this long enough, voting by mail with no excuse, to really project,
Right.
because there aren't enough instances.
Right. And what would you say to someone who thinks voting by mail might be more convenient, right? You have a little bit more time to fill out your ballot, to sit with your choices, but still has questions, has heard a lot of this negative talk about mail-in voting. What would you say to that person about this?
The first thing I would say is, this is not some newfangled thing that we decided to come up with. People have been voting by mail for decades, even here in Philadelphia. There's been absentee voting in our military. And so there has been mail-in voting forever. It is not, it's not something new. It's not some creative little twist we thought of. It's something that goes on, nationwide around the country. It is the first time where we've been able to do it with no excuse, but be that as it may, we've always been able to do it. So at first I would tell them that. And then I would also tell them that they should always go to our website, vote.phila.gov or 70's website, like choose a trusted source to find your information. I can assure you that, 90% of what you're reading on your social is not a trusted source. And even if it is, it's always best to check with the trusted sources you know and can confirm.
And the new website, vote.phila.gov, is beautiful. Congratulations on rolling that out recently. It looks terrific. It's been so user-friendly. I've been excited to poke around.
I'm glad. If you catch anything that we should be that maybe isn't working right, please let us know, because sometimes when you roll something out that's new, people catch things that you might not have noticed. So we're interested in feedback. So far, the feedback has been positive, but we're happy to hear anything that people think we could do better.
Great. And as you're anticipating this upcoming election, and looking forward to 2024, what kind of challenges are you anticipating or preparing for?
Lauren, we are preparing for anything. What we saw in 2020 was unlike anything we've ever seen. I do believe that we were very well prepared for it, mostly because of the Philadelphia's Office of Emergency Management. I can never give them enough kudos. They worked with us and CISA and Homeland Security to provide for us the opportunity for tabletop exercises, which, to be fair and honest, in 2020, when they scheduled us for these tabletop exercises, I thought, well, I don't have like all this time to spend on tabletop exercises. Like, I have real work to do, never imagining that, these tabletop exercises may, they really came in handy. I'm so glad I took them. I'm so glad that we continue to do that now after every election, because it really does prepare us. I am first and foremost preparing to be able to count every legitimate vote as quickly as possible. That's, and I want to make sure that the people that are voting in person can do so freely and fairly, as they always have. So my first obligation is to the voter to make sure that they're getting their ballots in time, that the machines are working, that the polls are open. And then I want to make sure that my staff is safe, and we could just do our job, and we can drown out the noise and get our job done.
Are you anticipating a lot of noise?
I am anticipating, sadly, I'm anticipating a lot of the same noise that we heard in 2020. maybe different people saying it, but
We've been doing some poll worker recruitment sessions here at Committee of 70 with the League of Women Voters, where I'm also the president there. And every single session we've done, probably 6 or 7 at this point, someone has asked, are we going to be safe?
yeah.
Right, serving as poll workers. And what would you say to that concern?
You know, first of all, I would say it's so upsetting that that's even a question, right?
Right.
But we know the reality of the situation is that people are afraid. I would say that, you know, I don't think we haven't seen any evidence that shows that any of our poll workers are in danger. You know, in the past, it's mostly been us, quite frankly, and some of the people that work here. But every polling place is equipped with we give everybody a cell phone. So if you feel at all intimidated or afraid, or there's anything out of, you know, that doesn't seem right and seems amiss, use that phone, call 911 first, and then call us. But first thing you should do is call 911, because we want to make sure that you're safe and that you feel safe, and that if there's anything going on that is, you know, a threat to your security or that safety, you call the police first.
Right. And they're prepared to handle anything.
Yes.
On election day. And so I think back to some of those challenges, I know that you personally received death threats after the 2020 election, or as part of that whole run up. And do you think anything was specifically targeted because you're a woman? And what, going off of that, what is it also like to be a woman in Philadelphia politics?
Oh, I absolutely think most of it was because I'm a woman. I mean, you know, without getting into it, I mean, most of the threats and the just hostility and the just mean, the horrible things that were spewed at me were vicious attacks that were completely misogynistic, right? It is what it is. There's no denying that. It's absolutely 100%. I was like a primary target because I'm a female, and everything about me because I'm a female. So my hair, my eyes, my body type, my clothes, my lack of lipstick, whatever, right? Cause open season, you know, my colleagues got threats, but they don't go from head to toe on them, right?
Right.
When they threaten a woman, they for some reason feel like they can go in head to toe, right? It's very different. And I don't like to talk about it. So the difference, you know, it's a personal decision. I'm sorry, I have a hair in my eye. It's a personal decision that I made to not talk about it, right? Because I thought the more you talked about it, the more you get. So I kind of made a decision, you know, did reach a tipping point on Twitter about my physical appearance, where I felt obligated as a female, as an older female. I felt an obligation to the young girls to speak about that, but that's the only time that I spoke about it. I don't know if that was the right decision or the wrong decision. It was just a personal decision. I don't think there's any right or wrong. But during that time when it was going on, you know, it was pretty bad.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely. I'm so sorry though.
I mean, we were in the convention center where we were supposed to be safe. And there was such a credible threat to me, Lisa, that I had cops inside the convention center that were flanking me and went everywhere with me. Ladies' room, you know, my hotel room, everywhere. It's a little upsetting, and it gets me upset even when I think about it, but you know, I'm safe. It worked. I'm fine. Nobody got hurt. What, you know, they came to do whatever harm they were going to do. They didn't succeed. We're so grateful to law enforcement, but it just upsets me that we even have to have these measures.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think there's any difference just in you've now run for office multiple times, seeking the party's nomination, advancing in, you know, you've had a career in politics in Philadelphia. Have you noticed a difference for women in that world?
I think there absolutely is a difference for women in that world. You know, I've been very fortunate and I'm very grateful both to my political family and because they help lift me up, but absolutely to the voters of Philadelphia who have affirmed that their confidence in me, like I said. But it is different because it is, there are still certain rooms you go in where it is a men's club, right? I used to laugh when I first became a commissioner. We'd be in a room and it would be me and the other two commissioners and their deputies, and I would be the only female. That has, changed a little, but it was that way here, right? Even though, the chair of the commission, and there has been, if it's one office in the city where they should be applauded, the voters, because they've always made sure for a really long time, that there was a female here. So in that regard, we're ahead of the curve, right, in Philly. But still, when you go into like a meeting, it's all men, right? So that's a little different. But I think in Philadelphia, the voters do a pretty good job of, and more so than other places, of making sure there's female representation. And I'm a lucky recipient of that.
And it looks like several women might be on the ballot to become our first potential
not running for-
mayor.
Yes.
Number 100, right?
Number 100, and there are, and it's so far, there's a couple women, yes, that have their toe in there.
So what would you say to anyone interested in helping, any Philadelphia citizen interested in helping this election go well in the fall? How can citizens get involved?
The first thing every citizen can do to make sure that this election goes well is to be a part of it. So please vote. Please vote. And if you're on social media, you're on Instagram, or you're on Facebook, or you're on Twitter, or wherever you are, if you're at Wawa, whenever you're having a conversation with somebody about the election, don't just assume because they share your opinion, or even if they differ in opinion, don't assume they're a voter. We need to start asking people flat out, are you voting? What's your plan? How are you voting? In person? That's the very first way, because the more people that take part in the process, the more secure the process is. Because the second thing I would say is we need poll workers. Poll workers are how it gets done. We can do everything here. We can make sure the ballot's right. We can get all the ballots in the mail. We can do everything. The one thing we can't do is be in 1,703 locations in person on election day from 6:30 in the morning to 8:30 at night. We just can't do that. We rely on the citizens. One thing that gets lost even in this national dialogue around elections is that elections are powered by the people. It's your neighbors, it's your family, it's the lady down the street, it's your grocer, it's neighbors, it's your neighbors and communities and the people that power elections. And we need people. Historically, those roles have been filled by retired, older aged people. And then the COVID came, and they also happened to be one of the age brackets that was most susceptible to the COVID, so they didn't work the polls. I don't blame them. They were, out of their own, risk, protection, their own health, of course. But the issue is that no other generation, no other group of people has picked up that mantle and filled that void, and a lot of them have not come back. So it's a nationwide problem, and Philadelphia, because of the uniqueness. A lot of places have mail-in voting, but they don't operate 1,703 divisions in person on election day. So we are literally running 3 elections. People say 2, but we're really running 3 elections at the same time. We're running the mail-ins, we're running the in-person, and we're running the in-person mail-ins at the vote center.
Right.
So the best way to help us is become a poll worker. Go on vote.phil.gov, click on the button that says become, poll worker, or contact Lauren here at 70. She's a great advocate for us, for poll workers. We need poll workers. We especially need poll workers that are willing to go throughout the city. A lot of people are looking to be poll workers, but if they can't be in their own polling place, they don't want to do it. We need we need people that want to volunteer and are able to go anywhere in the city. We might not be able to get you in your own division. We'll do what we can to get you as close by as possible. But the reality is we need poll workers throughout the city. So we might ask you to go to Southwest Philly or the greater Northeast, or Frankfurt or somewhere where we need a poll worker, Northwest. You know, like I said, we'll make every effort to keep you as close as we can. But the reality is we need poll workers everywhere. We also desperately need interpreters. So if you are somebody that is listening to my voice in this video and you speak another language and you want to work the polls on election day, come be an interpreter for us. We desperately need you, especially if you are fluent in traditional Chinese.
Right, which is new after the census. Now all of the materials and things in the polling place are offered in
Correct.
Chinese as well. Right?
Yep.
Well, that I cannot give a more strong endorsement to that, to get people to sign up. And the Committee of 70 and League of Women Voters are partnering with the city commissioners and others to help inform poll workers and recruit them, so we can provide supplemental trainings to the official training that each county provides. And that's more, I'll drop that in the chat on the video too.
Thank you so much.
Has that link. Anything else you'd like to add?
You know, I would just like, as I said, every 6 months, Philadelphians have an opportunity to come out and have their voice heard and their vote counted. You know, never before have we heard so much about the process. You know, Philadelphians can be assured that their vote, their legitimate vote will be counted. It'll be processed as quick as possible. Polls will be open and everybody just needs to take a part of it. You know, take part in the democracy. One thing about a democracy, it's not a spectator sport. So be a part of it and help it. So I appreciate this time, and I do appreciate the partnership that we have with 70 and just the collaborative effort that everybody's taking to help us make sure elections go off without a hitch in Philly.
Well, thank you for your work and for your leadership. If there's any other way that Committee of 70 or the League can be helpful, of course, we're all ears. But that's a phenomenal message. Trust the process. Philadelphians know that well.
Yeah. Trust the process.
And that's what we can do to have a successful election day. Thanks so much, Commissioner Deeley.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Don't forget to vote.